Okay, so we are continuing in the Rambam in Hilchos Matnos, Aniyim, Zion, and we read this shocking. Well, I was shocked by the halacha yesterday about nashim. Okay, so Gabai, let's do it again. 7:12, 7:12:2. Gabai tzedakah lo kachim min hanashim min hatinokos davar muad. So the Gabai tzedakah can take from women and from girls a small amount of a lo davar meruba, but not a big amount.
Because they steal.
Shechezkas hamruba geniva o gazel mishal acherim, because the chazaka of a large amount is that it is stolen or robbed from others. What is considered a davar muat of theirs? Hakol fi osher habalim o aniyusan. All is according to the wealth of the balim or their poverty. Okay, so when we read that, it sounds like he's saying that you got thieves in your house, right?
Women steal.
Women steal. Yes. Okay, so I looked into this extensively this morning. Okay, yeah. So let's look at, so it is not what it appears. Okay, although there is still one problem. Okay, but so if you look at the Shulchan Arukh here, it's here's how the Machshavah brings it down. Gabei tzedakah im makavlim mehanashim umihavanim umihatinokos. So v'kamahu davar muat hakol fi osher habalim v'aniyusam. Okay, so that's pretty much like the Rambam. V'hani mili b'stama. That is if that's in general. In other words, you can collect the davar muat in general. V'im habal mocha, but if the bal objects, meaning if the husband or the father objects, afilu koshu asr l'kabel b'hem. It's asr to even take a little bit.
Well, that makes sense.
Okay, why? Okay. So that's the inroad. Okay, so let's look at the Arוך Shulchan and then it'll become clear.
Probably only true if the ball already gives it up, right?
No, even if the ball did not give tzedakah.
Well, you wouldn't force it on the women.
Yeah, they can beat him, but I don't know if his yeah, right. But in other words, I don't know if you could just say that like the wife can just like give forcibly from her own husband's stuff. Yeah. Okay. So Arוך Shulchan says, "Gabei tzedakah im makavlim menashim v'avanim u'tenokos ela davar muat aval lo davar gadol shechas kaso gazel o ganav mishal acherim v'kamahu davar muat hakol lefi osher balim v'iniyusam hani milibstama aval im abal mocha afilu koshu asar l'kabel mehem v'im kantu as ha'isha be'ezek knas." So if the wife, this is not relevant to our thing, but if the wife gets any sort of like monetary penalty, chayav habal l'shalim, the ball is obligated to pay for it. Yeah. V'chein masha nadra ba'odena pnuya, whatever she gives a netter for when she's unmarried, chayav l'shalim. Then when she does get married, what? I think once she gets married, then he's chayav. Yeah. All right. V'isha shedoreshes miba'ala ha'ashir litain l'kroveha lefi ashra. A woman who asks her husband, who is rich, to give to her relatives according to her wealth, in habal yachol limchos biyada, the ball cannot object. But hadavar tmuha, this is astounding. De'ech biyacholta litain bal korcho. How could she give without his permission? Amnam lefi mashin devar b'sif yud gimel asi shapiro. We're gonna explain. Okay, so hold on just a second. I'm skipping this whole first part because it's going to complicate things needlessly. So then he says nowadays, okay, Vida, you should know. I misread this morning. That I thought it said like Dovim Shel Shlomo. I was like Solomon's bears. Like there's a Yam Shel Shlomo, that in the Yam Shel Shlomo, which by the way, fun fact that I have to see. I don't know if you saw me post this on Facebook. You see what I posted about the Yam Shlomo's mother?
Oh, and that one?
Yeah, so this is crazy. I've never heard of this person. Okay, I mean, I've heard of the Yam Shel Shlomo. So the Yam Shel Shlomo, Solomon Lurie. This is not Rambam Bekius. It's cool Bekius. His mother is the eminent Talmudist Miriam Luria. Have you heard of her? I had not heard of her. Miriam Luria Shapira, also known as Rabbanit Miriam, was a Talmudic scholar of the late Middle Ages. According to academic Lawrence Fuchs, she was one of the most noted women Talmud scholars. So she opened a yeshiva. She conducted, she was known as Rabbanit Miriam, taught in Padua, Italy. She had conducted a yeshiva and gave public lectures in Jewish codes of law. She was thoroughly conversant in rabbinic writings. And Nahida Ruth Lazarus writes that her Talmudic disputations with other distinguished scholars over time created a great sensation. Female community teachers were rare in Jewish tradition, but not unheard of. So it says she was also known for her beauty, and she taught Talmud to elite young men from behind a curtain so they would not get distracted by her appearance. Isn't that awesome? Like that's amazing in the late Middle Ages. Anyway, yeah. So I got to her when I was looking at the Yom Shlomo, but
I saw the post.
Yeah. Who's the same as the Maharshal, apparently. Yeah, I'm trying to become more versant in. I'm pretty good at knowing like basic Rishonim and like where and when they live, but I'm not good at Achronim, and I'm trying to get better at that. Okay. Vida de B'yam Shlomo shilhi b'kama kasav b'shem haravan da'inna nowadays makabli min hanashim afilu davar merubah. We accept tzedakah from women, even a large amount. Da'inna nechshavos hanashim ka'apatrosos shel ba'alein, because the women are considered to be like custodians of their husband's money. Ein Sham. Od Kasav Sham, B'din Schira. Okay, then that was another thing. Okay, so what I realized when reading this is the whole issue is based on this principle of Ma Shekansa Isha Kana Baila, right? That whatever the woman acquires, her husband owns. So when it says that if she gives a little bit, then it's okay. That's because it's presumed that he's mochel, okay? But really, it's not her money. That's the thing. But if she gives a lot, then it's not that we assume that she stole it. It's that you treat the money as stolen because you assume that he didn't give her permission to give that large amount. And I think it's easier to think about if you think about the case with the tinokos. So imagine like a 5-year-old goes up and says, my daddy wants me to give you $100 for tzedakah, right? You don't assume that like the father like just like gave her $100. Like you assume that she it's without his permission, So it's that's what it means by bechezkas geniva. And I also looked in this other, speaking of Achronim, the Shevet Halevi. I closed the Wikipedia window. This is a contemporary posek who died in 2015. I just highlighted important parts. So he says, so he quotes our halacha, then he quotes the Yam Shlomo that we just said, which by the way, that's the Divishish, that's the Diviyam Shlomo. Okay. So he quotes that. And then he says, everything is dependent on the husband and the wife. Sometimes like she's just like a homemaker and is not involved in financial things, and she's not considered to be a custodian of her husband's money. And even if she is in charge of the money, sometimes that's only for household expenditures. Or maybe like he gives her a certain amount of money to like make investments or something like that. But for tzedakah, she needs the permission of her husband. Unless she's an Eishes Chayil, this is answering my Eishes Chayil question, not in the way that I intended. Umachaya es bala, and I think this probably is like going off of the Kola model, right? And she's the one who supports her husband. Then, if she's the one who's like the main income earner, right, wearing the figurative pants in the family, then mistama, then he gives her permission to give money to tzedakah. Because she's earning all the money. And he approves of it. And I guess meaning he has the right, like if he objects, then she would stop doing business. So at the end of the day, everything has to go based on the individual relationship. So in other words, how does this apply now? And by the way, he goes on to disagree with Arach Shulchan, but we're not going to go into that right now. So yeah. I don't remember. I went through a lot of sources this morning. How does this apply now? Is it all, I think it goes, this is not, I don't think this is a matter of psak. In other words, it's a matter of what can we assume that women and their husbands, what can we assume about their finances? In other words, like, I think it is very common now, like, I can't speak for all the Jewish world, but like that women give tzedakah either of their own money or like their husbands give them the right to give them tzedakah. Maybe you'd have to like check into the specific like chazakos in your community or whatever. But like, in other words, so just the end of the day, it's not that we assume that women stole money from their husbands, it's we assume that they're giving without reshus, which is stealing. Yeah.
Depending on the situation, make the reverse chazaka as assume if the husband's giving you without the reshus of his wife, like in the case where the wife is the main income earner.
I assume it would be the same sort of thing. Like you'd have to go based on what the norms are.
Wouldn't you?
I'm not. I mean, that's what it sounded like.
I think everything you had to figure that out and.
Because the Masha Kansa Isha Kansa Bala, right?
I don't know if
that's true. Yeah, I mean, I was just quoting him. He was saying that presumably he's if she's supporting.
No, but he's saying that he's mocha.
He's mocha, right? It's not an equal mechila, equal rights.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I think that if he wants whatever money.
Right. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Because first it was default that would be the case, but I thought the family situation, husband and wife could stipulate that I guess an exemption to Masha consolation.
Yes, correct. Like she can have her own income, or when she brings money into the marriage, then they can make all these stipulations and stuff. So I don't know what we're allowed to. I think so, right? Yeah.
Constantly sentence on entry. You can do whatever you want with your money.
Yeah.
I mean, like, no, obviously not whatever you want, but like you can make whatever stipulation you want with your money. I can decide to give you money, right?
Yeah.
Then why should it be any different with
Well, can the woman decide without the husband?
No, I don't think so. But the husband can stipulate. Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, I don't
I thought you getting the woman's money.
Yeah, I don't think he was done asking this question. Yeah.
We should just be able to like make it the precondition of the ketubah if the wife won't do it unless it isn't the ketubah it's written.
Yeah. You can draw up whatever contracts you want. Yeah. So I don't know how we assume contempt like nowadays. I should ask. Yeah, but this is also I get the impression from the Wikipedia biography that this is a Haredi posik, and I don't know if like he's talking about like in his community or whatever. Like a lot of since this is dependent on chazakos, I think it is very dependent on the community. So what?
Isn't that what it's saying?
Yeah, right. But I'm saying I don't know what we like. Let's say, like, hypothetically, someone has a Patreon, right? And a woman decides to like donate money, right? Hypothetically, right? Do I have to like say, well, does your husband allow you to, this might be stolen goods, Oh, speaking of which, sorry, I forgot to quote an important halacha. Speaking of stolen goods. So the Rav Makbili referenced a Rambam in Hilchos Geniva, which I wanted to show you. Oh, so many sources open here. It was 6. Oh, I know why. Hold on just a second here. Okay, I got the Makbili, but I didn't download it. Okay, hold on a second. Geniva 6:4. This is a funny halacha. Not funny like the halacha is funny, but just the scenario that it conjures up in your mind is funny. So, you cannot buy from women, servants, and kids. You could only buy from them things that there's a chazaka that they own them, or that they have the das bailim, to sell. Could go nashim shemachru kli pishtan begalil o agalim besharon. So those are like weird examples of particular types of merchandise where you have this chazaka. The kulam sha'amru, but whenever they say hatmein, hide it. Like if a woman sells you something and says hide it, asur likach mehen, it's asur to buy from her, because then you can assume that it's stolen. And then lochim beitim you can buy eggs and chickens any place from any person. But if he says hide the eggs, then asur, then it's asur because you assume that he stole the eggs. I don't know why that just tickles my funny bone, But yeah,
I
so
like an image of like Zelda.
I also whenever anything involves when everything involves chickens that are being like handled or anything, I always get the image of Zelda. Yeah. So I mentioned that this answers everything except the thing I don't quite get. I understand shechazkas hameruba geneva, but I don't understand chazkas hameruba guzzle mishal acherim. That makes it sound like we assume that she robbed someone else. So in the way the Rambam said is Gavit Tzedakah lochim min hanashim min tinokos davar muat aval lo davar meruba shechazkas hameruba geneva. Okay, which we explained. Gazel mishal acherim, or robbed from others, which doesn't seem to have to do with the das bilim. That seems to be like, now it could be that maybe if you have the girsa that like this is an eved or a kid, then maybe like we're assuming that avadim and kids like will like just take from other people. I don't know, but it still is weird chazaka.
I think maybe you're saying that not everything is only for that. It is only from
it's without his permission.
I mean, that's
it is, but I'm saying, but you can't say that.
Doing it from the husband that way, or in the money,
Right, but I just think that's a weird. It's a weird.
I think it's the same for that.
It's, I don't know. To me, it's a weird chazaka.
Women aren't on money out there talking about. And if
Right.
you're not doing that, and you don't know that and you're from the vow, or they're getting money from somewhere else.
Okay, you can say that, but like I don't know, like maybe it's b'cheskas be'ila. Maybe she got it from Hekdesh. I mean, that's just as like I don't know why. Like, yeah, Yosef.
First, is that just going to like couldn't it just be a simpler word so it doesn't have to say bale or parents or just even children?
It could be, but I think it's more likely that there actually is a real chazaka of gzela, but that is talking about like avadim and what do you call, and like and kids, or maybe probably avadim. Is that an open mishnah in Avos? Marbe, is that one of the marbes? You know what I'm talking about? Hold on, I gotta look at Marbe. No, not Marbe Basar, Marbe Rima. I know that's not the one I'm thinking, but that's how I get there. 2-7. I know there's one Marbe Avadim. Marbe Avadim, Marbe Gezel. Yeah. So that I think is more likely, and that is actually a thing Ad Hayom Zeh, right? That if you have what was that?
More employees.
Maybe employees. I was thinking like if you have live-in help, it's people are always like assuming that. Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think that's my assumption that I don't. In other words, I don't think we assume that it's the wives forcibly stealing from their husbands or something. I don't know. I mean, yeah. Okay. I think that is good for today. And then tomorrow's halacha is about priority in tzedakah, who you give to first. So that's a biggie. Yeah. And no Rambam Bekius on Thursday, at least not conducted by me. Yeah. Oh, right in the Thanksgiving meal feelings. Okay.